Hello, I'm the FanFic Critic. I read it, you listen. Okay, who here wants a break from bad fan fiction? Well, I'm happy to say that not only is today's review a summarized review, but it's going to be a summarized review of a pretty interesting story. The fanfic I'll be taking a look at today is called The Revenge of Dr. Clefarious, and it's by the author Not Molo. Does Not Molo sound familiar to you? Well, that person should. You want to know why? Because they are the author of that Halloween special, that Pokemon Halloween special fanfic that I reviewed back in episode 72. Oh boy, I remember that fanfic. Well, I'm going to trust that this author has gotten better in his work. And seeing I have read this fanfic, The Revenge of Dr. Clefarious, myself, I would say it's a lot better than the Halloween special. Unfortunately, it's a little too long for me to read out loud. However, I will read the first chapter out loud to you guys. And if you guys are interested in reading the rest of it, you can go right ahead. And I will sum up my thoughts when I finish reading the first chapter. So, let's not waste any time. Chapter 1. It was a brand new day in Little Shock Town. The peaceful town residents were walking around, and in some cases flying around, living out their daily routines. At the entrance to the town, a small figure had arrived. It was clearly a Pokemon, one that somewhat resembled a Pachirisu. However, it was a different Pokemon altogether. Its facial features mimicked a Pachirisu, such as the eyes and nose and yellow cheek patches. Okay, you should be separating that with commas. It should say, such as the eyes, nose, and yellow cheek patches. That's where the resemblance to a Pachirisu ended. The Pokemon ears were rounded, I should say the Pokemon's ears with an apostrophe S, in shape and black in coloration, with yellow and white sections of the pattern above its face. The tiny creature also possessed wing-like yellow-colored flaps connected to its three-fingered arms. Lastly, its feet were white-colored and fairly small, and its black-colored tail was a jagged shape, somewhat like that of a Raichu. It took a long glance around the town before heading further into it. The Pokemon was heading in the direction of the town hall, which was positioned at the south end of the town. It was obviously new to the area, as it was frequently looking at the directional signs posted all over. Eventually, the small Pokemon arrived outside a large two-story building. A huge sign at the start of the path leading up to the doors told the creature that it had arrived at the town hall of Little Shock in big, bold writing. Without a second delay, it headed up the small path and entered the building. Once inside, the Pokemon walked across the smooth brown-tiled floor and up to the receptionist. The receptionist was a female Kirlia, busily typing on a computer keyboard. Remaining silent, the flying squirrel Pokemon held up a little slip of paper for the receptionist to see. She glanced away from her computer screen and noticed the tiny slip. The mayor's office is upstairs. Just head along the corridor, around the corner at the end, and you'll see a door leading into the mayor's office at the end of the next corridor. The Kirlia said quickly before turning her attention back to her typing. Following the receptionist's specific directions, the Pokemon easily found the double doors that led into the office of the mayor. He opened the doors and walked into the room where a second receptionist awaited, this one being the mayor's personal son, Flora secretary, Flora. Unlike the Kirlia, Flora had a cheery and welcoming complexion. She looked up at the Pokemon upon his entry. "Hello there!" Flora happily exclaimed. "The mayor is ready to see you now. Go right ahead." Still remaining completely silent, the Pokemon headed through the second set of double doors, entering the office of Mayor Winslow Furry. The mayor of Little Shock Town was a middle-aged ferret. Okay, every time they put down mayor, sometimes they have the M capitalized and other times they don't. It should stay capitalized. Let's continue. Busily shuffling through some papers on his desk. As the Pokemon approached closer, the mayor stopped what he was doing and looked up at him. "I've been expecting you," the ferret said. "You wish to have special accommodation in my town, correct?" Okay, you're missing something here. Either you need an S at the end of accommodation, or you need the word A in there. Let's continue. That's right, sir, the Pokemon finally said. My name is Emanga, and if it isn't too much trouble, I need the house to have features for my disabled mother. That is easily done with no extra cost, Mayor Furry said, taking out a pipe. What type of disability does your mother have? Well, Emanga began. It's kind of complicated, sir. How so? Inquired the mayor. Emanga hopped up on top of the desk. Okay, on top should be one word and not separated with a hyphen. One that needs your personal assistance, Mr. Mayor. He responded before swiftly placing a small silver microchip on the forehead of Mayor Furry. Before he could react, react, again, you do not need a hyphen in the word react. Winslow felt his very mind go numb. He was now unable to think. His mind was becoming blank and unresponsive. Emanga chuckled evilly as he observed the mayor's eyes transform into plate white emotionless ones. Now that you also have a disability, you can listen to what my mother has to say to you, Emanga said, taking out a small tape recorder. I know you two will get along very well. The mayor gave no response due to being in a deep hypnotic trance. Emanga placed the tape recorded on the desk next to them and hit the play button. Meanwhile, at the human-populated town of Barton, Ashley Hudson was relaxing at her home with her boyfriend, Dark. Interesting name for your boyfriend. Ever since she found out that she was pregnant, Ashley had been taking everything easy. Dark, as well as the girls' team of Pokemon, were more than happy to assist her in her needs. Would you like a cup of my special coffee, Miss Ashley? Asked Clarice, Ashley's coffee brewing Clefairy. Ashley smiled. Yes, please, Clarice, she replied. I could do with a cup. Hold on, Dark suddenly said. Are you sure it's wise to drink coffee while you're pregnant, Ash? He inquired, concerned for her well-being. Dark, I'm pretty sure just one cup of coffee will harm the baby in any way. I think you should have it say, will not harm the baby in any way. She told him, I'll make sure to leave out the sugar when I make up coffee, Mr. Dark, so don't worry yourself, Clarice informed the human boy before walking into the kitchen. Who would name their son Dark? I mean, I could kind of see for a Pokemon, but a human? But then again, with how celebrities are in these days, they tend to give their children very interesting names. Oh, well, let's continue. Dark sighed and sat down next to his beloved girlfriend, wrapping his arm around her body affectionately. Ashley let out a giggle as she leaned towards her boyfriend, placing her head on his warm chest. Hey, Dark, she began to say. Yeah? Ever since I trained with my Amazonian ancestor, I've always wanted to try out my strength on a bad guy. She started to tell Dark. Okay, is this supposed to be like a continuation of another story that this author has written? I'm going to assume so, but if that's the case, they should really have a note at the beginning of the story saying, this is a continuation of another story I did. I noticed the same problem with the Halloween special. The only time I displayed my strength was when I moved that boulder blocking our escape when we were stranded at Mount Silver. Ashley, you can't. You are pregnant, Dark informed her, frowning a little at his girlfriend's words. You'll have to take it easy. Oh, Dark, it's not that I don't appreciate what you and my Pokemon are doing for me. It's just I expected my life to be more active since I gained my newfound strength. Allie is out there, and if she can do it, then so can I, said the girl. I know, Ash, said Dark, giving Ashley a comforting hug. Tell you what, on my way home from work today, I'll stop by the video store and rent out that movie you've always wanted us to watch together. But I thought that you hated romance movies, Dark, said Ashley, confused by this. Normally I do, but as long as I am with you, Ashley, I don't care, Dark answered, giving off a warm, loving smile. Ashley returned the loving smile, as well as giving her boyfriend a quick peck on the cheek. She may have been unable to demonstrate her Amazon abilities due to her pregnancy, but as long as Dark was with her, she didn't mind as much as she once did. Okay, more time has passed. Elsewhere, the sneaky electric flying squirrel, Amanga, was now in a new location, far away from any civilization. You spelled civilization wrong. It needs a Z in there, not an S. The deep, dark forest he was now fearlessly strolling through was known as Kresnak. Interesting name. A place few Pokemon explored. The foreboding, half-dead trees hung forward in an angle above, blocking the view of the darkened sky. The grass was a dark green and rough underfoot, almost sharp enough to cut through uncovered feet like paper. This tough terrain was easily bypassed by Amanga, who simply glided over it. He eventually came to a small, desolated shack in a clearing no bigger than the shack itself. Amanga landed by the door and with a gentle shove pushed it open. The rusted hinges made a piercing squeaking sound as the door slowly swung open. The Pokemon headed into the partially empty abode and straight into an equally empty room. A dark, decaying brown wardrobe covered in dust and cobwebs stood at the other side of the room, placed center up against the back wall. Amanga walked over to it, opened it, and stepped inside, closing the door behind him soon after. He tapped on the cold, hard surface of the wardrobe 2 times. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Suddenly, the ground under Amanga's feet began to vibrate slightly as if it was trying to support his weight. It then started to slowly descend into darkness, taking the fearless Amanga with it. As it turned out, the bottom of the wardrobe was actually a small, fully operational lift. It took the flying squirrel Pokemon into the hidden tunnels underneath the old abandoned forest shack. As soon as the descending platform came to a complete and sudden stop, Amanga hopped of it, don't you mean off it, and headed through the long tunnels. It wasn't long before a large and sturdy metal door stood in his path. A small silver box was positioned to the left of the door, placed low enough for Amanga to easily reach. Amanga walked over to the box and stood perfectly still. No sooner than he got close to it, blue light shoot out, don't you mean shot, not shoot, out from the box, covering his eyes in non-blinking blue glow. Retinal scan complete. Identity confirmed and approved, said the robotic female voice coming from the metallic box. Welcome, Amanga. The strange blue light retracted back into the box. The huge door then opened up, allowing Amanga passage into a new and much larger room. Monitors displaying various images of the outside world were placed all around the room, each one high up on the metal-colored walls. A large control panel, decorated with millions of multicolored buttons and levers, took up a large portion of the room. Placed right next to the control panel was a dark blue swivel chair, and sitting on the chair was none other than the villainous mad scientist, Dr. Clefarious. I'm back, Mother, Amanga said cheerfully. Were you successful, Amanga? Clefarious asked, not bothering to turn around in her chair to face him. You bet I was, Mother, the electric squirrel exclaimed. Mr. Mayor didn't see it coming. Did you place the tape recorder? The Clefairy asked, remaining in the same position. Amanga nodded. I sure did, Mother. I stayed with it until it was over, then destroyed it like you said to, he told the scientist. Good. Now it's time to begin stage 2 of my plan, explained Clefarious, finally swirling around in her chair to face Amanga. Well, what are you waiting for, Amanga? You know what you should do next. I sure do, Mother, Amanga replied, smiling widely. You want me to? Do not tell me, you simpleton. Clefarious snapped, cutting Amanga off in mid-sentence. Go and do what you are supposed to do, and do not waste any more of my time. Sorry, Mother, said Amanga. I am going right now. Without a second's delay, the flying squirrel Pokemon darted out of the high-tech room, returning to the underground tunnels. Dr. Clefarious sighed to herself and turned back around in her chair to face the control panel. She pressed a blue button which opened up a secret door in the far corner of the room. Clefarious jumped off her chair and walked through the newly opened door and into a much smaller room of the underground base. On the other end of the room was a large circular, okay, you spelled circular wrong, machine which had a similar appearance to the robot-making one she had in the past before it was destroyed. Strapped to the machine by its arms and legs was a bipedal Ninetales. Placed on the middle of the Pokemon's vixen forehead was a small silver microchip, the same type of the one that Amanga placed on Mare Furry's head. Like the ferret mare, the Ninetales was in a deep trance. Now is a good time as any to test out my new roboticizer, the wicked Clefairy said to herself. But first, Clefarious took a remote control from her lab coat pocket and pressed one of the buttons. A long, thin, mechanical hand dropped down from the ceiling and took the microchip off the Ninetales' head, giving it to Clefarious to pocket. Once the chip was removed from the Ninetales' forehead, she returned to her senses. Groaned the Ninetales, her eyes becoming normal once more. Where am I? This doesn't look like the country club. Welcome, Victoria Renarde, isn't it? The Clefairy scientist questioned. Please excuse me. While you were under the influence of my mind control technology, I probed your memory and read what I needed to know. Who the heck are you? Snarled the Ninetales. I demand you release me from this absurd contraction this instant. I am afraid I can't do that, Victoria. You see, after I had to rebuild my roboticizer after the incident at my previous laboratory, I've been looking for the right guinea pig to test out my new one, Clefarious stated evilly. Guinea pig? Exclaimed the Ninetales in sheer fury. Do you know who I am? Dr. Clefarious reached for the lever on the machine to activate it. You are just one of those wealthy Pokemon who looked down at the likes of me. A wicked grin spread across the face. In a matter of seconds, you'll be something much more tolerable. The evil scientist pulled down the lever all the way, starting up the machine. A loud humming sound began, and pretty soon Victoria found herself being struck by a powerful force from inside the machine. It felt like nothing she had felt before. It felt like being electrocuted, but there was something very different about it. The force seemed like it was attacking her insides rather than her outsides. She screamed as the mysterious pain brought on by the machine intensified. Ah! She screamed. Stop this, please! Ignoring the Ninetales' painful pleas, Clefarious simply smirked evilly. She enjoyed observing her sinister contractions at work. All of a sudden, Victoria felt her whole body become very stiff. Even her numerous tails refused to swish about like they used to. Her screaming came to a complete halt, being replaced by feeble gasps. Starting from her frozen toes, her fur color began to dim, eventually turning a light metallic gray. Even though Victoria couldn't move her eyes to look down, she could feel that she was going through an abnormal change. Her now gray fur started to shrink, sinking into her rigid skin. As her eye pupils began to shrink to be no bigger than pinpricks, all she could do was let out a silent groan. Her skin was the next to go through a change. Still retaining their original coloring, her skin texture changed from being as stiff as a plank to becoming pure metal. By the time her body had been transformed, Victoria's eyes were a clear white, lacking pupils. Her head quickly became metal, replacing every shred of skin she once had. The fluffy crest on top of her head was the only part of her remarkable fur that didn't blend into her skin. It quickly became a strong and sturdy metal, making the robotic transformation process complete. Her body was not the only part of her to go through a bizarre transformation. The brain of the Ninetales had also become metal, now acting more like a CPU rather than a biological brain. Clefarious chuckled evilly and pressed another button on her remote, freeing Victoria from the bonds of the machine. The Ninetales was no longer flexible. She dropped down on her one knee as soon as she was released. State your name, the wicked Clefarious requested. Name not found, the robotic vixen answered, her voice dull and robotic in tone. Your name is Robot K038, Clefarious told her, smirking evilly as she said so. You were created by me, Dr. Solaria Clefarious, to serve as my mindless but loyal robot. You were not programmed with any free will to call your own. You were programmed to listen to me and only me. I am Robot K038, the Nine-Tails robot repeated. I was created by Dr. Clefarious to serve as her mindless and loyal robot. Robot K038 was not programmed with free will. Robot K038 was programmed to only listen to the commands issued by Dr. Clefarious. I can't say that I approve of the third-person dialect, but I like the extra dialogue you came up with, Dr. Clefarious said, rubbing her chin. Robot K038, scan your memory database and report what you find. Make sure to exclude the file that holds your programming. Affirmative, spoke the mindless robot figure that was once Victoria. Her eyes started to glow blue. A few moments later she spoke once more. Memory file of 1 Victoria Renarde found. Open file? No. Delete it. Deleting file. The robot's eyes grew blue once more, but for a shorter period of time than before. Memory file deleted. Good work, Robot K038. Enter sleep mode. I shall wake you up when I require your services. The lab coat wearing Clefarious ordered. Affirmative, Doctor. K038 responded before closing her eyes, shutting down her systems. The robot remained in an upright standing position. Dr. Clefarious chuckled once more and walked out of the room, switching off the lights simply by clapping her paws together. She sat down in her swivel chair, turning herself around to face the huge monitor before her. It's time to make a call to my contacts, she said to herself, pressing a green button on the control panel in front of her, switching on the monitor screen. To be continued. Oh boy. Well, that was one long chapter. It's a good thing I'm not reading the entire story out loud because we would be here forever. I have to say, so far this story is very interesting. And if I'm to give it a review based off of what I just read, here's my review. It's a pretty decent story so far. And a couple of little spelling and grammar issues in there, but other than that, it really kept the reader intrigued about what's going on. I thought it's pretty well thought out, and the transitions are pretty good as well. And something tells me that the rest of the story will be pretty good as well. So if you guys are a Pokemon fan, I suggest you check the story out. Well, I'm the FanFic Critic. I read it, you listen, and I need to continue to play Pokemon Black. By the way, I left my DS downstairs.